Hello all, welcome back. Gosh, it is good to see you all. It's been 18 days since I began filming my last video, and that's just not good enough for especially you, but me also. I really enjoy making these. But here I am. I hope you enjoyed that introduction there. It's springtime at last. That was a lovely morning yesterday actually, where myself and my daughter went out to do a little bit of foraging, and whilst walking the dogs we found some great crops of wild garlic. Still quite early, but there were some pretty well established leaves, so we were very careful to just take just the amount we needed and leave the rest be to grow away. But what a time we've had in these last 18 days. I alluded to in my little YouTube community post there that we'd had an illness in the family. Won't go too much into it, but we all weren't allowed to leave the house for 10 days, so there's a little bit of a clue for you. But all is well now. But you can imagine for someone like me not being allowed to go outdoors, it was a little bit frustrating, although it was a pleasure to be able to help, obviously, whoever was in need. But during that time I didn't waste it. I've really enjoyed further sort of looking into the making of the Kydex knife sheaths that I've been enjoying doing. I saw Simon on his video with a little Mora knife, which interested me, and I saw the sheath for it. It looked a little bit sort of cheap and nasty really, so I thought about going ahead with making an improvement to that, and I'll just show you one of the things that I've done. So these are the knives you get, and the sheath with them is just, I mean, it's fine, and the knives are really good value, and the knives are great, but I thought I'd just make something a little bit more substantial and usable, so I came up with this. Nice little sheaths like that where the knife goes in, and I put, these are called tech locks, which can fix onto your belt, and you can have them so that the knife hangs vertically, or you can rotate that around with the screws to have it sitting sort of in the same line as your belt. But yeah, really happy with those. And those of you that saw the neck knife that I made and showed it on the last video, this was my first attempt, and I'm still really pleased with it. I'm going to keep it for just pointer's sake, but I've slightly improved that now, and that's my little neck knife. I'm really pleased with that. I've made a paracord handle, which from a bushcraft point of view, you could actually use this paracord should you need to for something like a bow saw, I guess. But yeah, still a lovely little knife, and now just a bit more of an eye-pleasing sheath to it. I'm looking forward to starting to make my own sort of knives and so on from scratch, and I'll make a video of that, maybe the next one or the one after, can't decide. But for now, let's just have a little look at what I've been doing as far as the fire trough is concerned, but mainly let's get out into the woods and do some cooking. That is the little idea that I had, and it's the original cardboard cutout that I made and walked it up the road to my friend Steve's house with just this little idea of making something that worked, and little did we know what was going to become of it. So from the cardboard cutout came this fire trough #1, and we were so pleased with it when a sort of a tangible item arrived after we had it cut out. I used it in the garden on one of my videos where I boiled some water, make a cup of tea, but also we cooked a burger on it, and it was just fabulous. We gave it some sort of pressure testing and so on, and came up with a number of things that needed to be modified on it, and so that turned into Fire Trough Mark II, which is the one that went on the market, and it's just been absolutely brilliant. We sank the grill plate into the main body so it didn't slide. Everything now had tabs on the sides of the plate so it folded flat. We introduced the double burner that fits the Trangia spirit burners and the Trangia gas burners as well, and we just really liked it, and it's worked a treat. And again, thank you to all that bought it. I've got my own one. It's this is our only pristine one that I've used mine about 40 or 50 times now, and I absolutely love it. We have acted on a little bit of feedback, and it's really good that we get that. A few people mentioned that it might be good to have some sort of support across the uprights here, so that you could have maybe a smaller pot that was, the bottom of it was less diameter than obviously these supports, so it could sit in there, whilst we had another one that was obviously wider than these supports, and that would sit nicely on. So we listened to that. And also there's a bit of warp. We've made it as thin as we can. There's a little bit of warping, certainly when used as a twig stove. I don't mind it at all. All I do is once, if the side gets a little bit warped during a burn, then I'll just, take it out, spin it round and pop it in that way, or I just give it a little bit of a bend to get it back to the right shape. Either works. So yes, that was just a couple of little feedback items, and it's great. People just sort of say, I've used it for a bit, how about thinking about this, how about thinking about that? So we listen to everything. What I don't want to do is show you now what we've come up with and you think, oh, I've just bought myself the Mark II and you've just announced this. It's like anything, developers, we listen to feedback, and eventually you sort of put a new item on the market. I've still got an Apple Series 1 watch, which I love, and I'm not about to buy any of the others, so it works, and you've got something that's really good. But here we go. I'll just show you what we've developed on it for the Mark III. And here it is now, Fire Trough Mark III. I'll put it next to the Mark II because I think that's the best way to demonstrate the very subtle differences that we've got between the two. This is the Mark III now, and the top is now completely flat. I put them end to end there. You can see that these two uprights on the Mark II rise above the grill plate here. On the Mark III, you can see that it's completely flat, and therefore that gives good support for any sort of pan, or you could even put a griddle plate on top of that as well, a flat iron. We've now embodied these quick slots, which you can use with the supplied pot supports, so that you can have virtually any size pot on here. We still supply the inner plate for the Trangia spirit burners, and the positioning has also been quite careful so that you've got room to pop in your Trangia style burner and also access the simmering. It still supports the Trangia gas burners, and there's a comfortable distance between the hot vapor ring there and the top of the supports, so anything will have clearance. As I mentioned, there are occasional warping issues, so these sides have now been made out of 2mm steel, and that will stop any issues of warping. It only adds about 150 grams to the overall weight, which we feel is really acceptable. This bottom plate is now wider, so we can get a bit more fuel in, and it slots just neatly into those bottom slots there. And there's no ambiguity as to where it can slot, because we've reduced the amount of slots that the extra bits can fit in. Likewise with the Trangia burner there, there's only one way it can go in. So you'll notice that one side of the stove parts is this nice brushed pattern, whereas the other side is sort of fresh from foundry, as it were. It's meant to be used, but we all like our kit to look nice, so we've made sure that the outsides of it still keep this nice brushed pattern. But if we were to get both sides finished in this particular way, it would again add much more extra cost to the production and therefore more cost to you, so we've kept it like this. We're nearly there. One thing you'll notice is a Mark II is that the hole for feeding the fuel is that size, and we've made it bigger here so you can feed in slightly larger bits of fuel. And finally, although it's difficult to see on camera, the Mark III is just marginally bigger in that it has a little bit more of a surface area for cooking than the Mark II. So it will fit 9 of these little pot supports, and they're just fab, because at one end of the fire trough you can have the big pan, and at this end you could have a slightly smaller cup boiling. So there you go, that sort of straddles the edge plates, and there's a much smaller cup which you can just support, maybe like that, here. So I think that's a great design, so that you can just use 2 pots of varying sizes and have them the way you like. So it might be a little bit bigger, but it still fits in the same pouch nice and neatly. So I hope you enjoyed those improvements. I'll shortly take it out into the woods. You've all seen in my videos of it being used as a gas burner, as a spirit burner, but let's use it as a twig stove today. Oh, what's that in my pocket? Hang on. Oh. I am really excited about this. It weighs 195 grams, and let's build it. Really excited about it. It's called the Fire Trough Mini. Great fan of the Trangia style spirit burners, and there's also lots of hybrids available on the market, and also a fan of the Trangia Triangle, which is the little sort of integral 3-plate support for the Trangia. It's got 2 slots and 2 pot supports provided, so you can either have a big pan on like that, or just use it with a much smaller one. We really like it. It's dead simple. And there you go. Comes apart like the fire trough. And there it is. Just tiny, pocket size. Great. No messing around now. let's go out into the woods and do a bit of foraging and cooking. Well, here I am in the woods finally. It's a beautiful spring day. I've been back to the house 4 times for picking up ingredients, picking up fuel, picking up the microphone for the camera, and the house isn't exactly very close, so it's taken about 2 hours for me to get from the house to sitting here filming for you. Managed to get a little bit of kindling from around the floor. We've had a lot of rain recently, so just in case I bought some kindling of my own. So I've set up the fire trough and I've got my ingredients together, and today I'm going to cook some wild garlic and nettle soup. Well, you saw me foraging there. I managed to find a potato, got loads of wild garlic which you saw on the intro bit, got a leek, got a few nettle leaves, got myself a little carrot, an onion, that's a vegetable stock pot, and I got some salt and pepper, plus I've also got some water and a little bit of double cream as well for the finish. But before we get started, it's cup of tea time, and it's time to give the Fire Trough Mini a little run for its money. And I need a cup of tea. So whilst that's taking that fuel on the fire trough, I'll start preparing these ingredients, and I'm just going to very finely chop all the ingredients. I'm not going to mix them all up, but I want the nettles and the garlic here to be separate, because they just are put in at the end because they go a bit I don't want them to go too soft. So I'm just going to chop these up, and then I'm going to chop up the potato, onion and so on. So there it is, all chopped up: nettles and garlic, carrot, potato, some red onion and my leek. I can put that pot on there. And there's my frying pan. Into the pan, some olive oil, swirl around a bit. That's Steve, my brilliant friend and business partner, asking how it's doing. Shall we let him know it seems to be alright at the moment? I'll turn him on to silent, sorry Steve. In goes onions, leek, potato and carrots. Right, so they've been frying down for about 5 minutes. I'll add some water now. And about half of one of these, a little bit more, vegetable stock pots. And just let that come up to a simmer before the next bit. So I'm just going to let that bubble away for 5 or 10 minutes, reduce it a bit before I add the garlic and the nettle. Great, so that's been simmering now for about 10 minutes. The main thing is I wanted the bits of potato to be nice and soft, which they are now. I'm just going to add the wild garlic and my nettles. And that doesn't need very long, that only needs 2 or 3 minutes. Well, it's had about 3 minutes just to simmer now. I'm going to move it to the cooler part of the fire trough there now. Some double cream. Warm through nicely. A little bit of extra garlic and nettle for garnish. And there you go.
And here goes for the Richard Outdoors Nom Nom trademark taste test. There we go. Oh God, that is good. I'm a total carnivore, you know, from the sort of things I cook. But that, oh, that is sensational. Gosh, it's actually quite spicy as well. It's got a kick to it because the wild garlic really is quite strong. Oh. Just delicious. Well, it was worth all those visits back to the house, and I hope you enjoyed watching that. What have we done? We've shown you the little evolvement that we've had with the Fire Trough, introduced the new one which has just worked a treat. What a journey this has been, folks, and thank you very much for joining me through the sort of evolvement of the Fire Trough from that cardboard model to where we sit now with the Mark III. The modifications that we've done, the really little minor bits, have made all the difference. There's no warping now on the sides, they're absolutely straight, and I've really felt that the increased size of the fuel feed holes has made a difference. But yeah, it's just been brilliant, considering it's just about a year since we made the first Fire Trough. What a year, in many ways as well. But here we are. I'll finish off this now, and I'm about 4 hours over time now, so I better get a little bit of a wiggle on. But I just wanted to mention one thing, and that's my friend Steve. I keep saying I've done this, I've done that, and so on, and I hope I'm occasionally putting in we did this, we did that. I go to my friend Steve with this sort of concept and really a pipe dream, and he turns it into something tangible. He's an incredible designer with amazing vision, something really I haven't got. He's a fiercely private individual, so you'll never see him on these YouTube videos, but I just want to say on camera how much I admire him, and he's a really good friend as well. So yeah, well done, Steve, because I couldn't have done this without you. And here we go, another video. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll get on with finishing this, and I look forward to seeing you again.